Here you can see I have the bar sitting on the edge of the anvil. I am trying to draw the bar down into a point. This will be the tip of our leaf. I am using half on half off blows, rotating the bar 90 degrees. I'm trying to draw it down into a tip. I am trying to avoid fish mouthing here, so rotating the bar as much as possible, using glancing blows. This is what you can see is what we're trying to look for. Here I'm starting to isolate the leaf itself, so I'm using the sharpest corner of the anvil that I have. Once again, half on half off blows, trying to bring the neck down from a 1/2 inch bar, looking for something like 3/16 of an inch. Not too thin yet, I don't want to snap the leaf off. Just trying to give myself a spot to isolate and draw out. You can see this is what we're looking for, just a nice spot to start drawing out from. As you can see, I started to draw the bar out, trying to give myself a nice clean transition at the base of the leaf so I can start creating the leaf itself. I've used half on half off blows, rotating the bar 90 degrees. Here you can see I'm just trying to clean up the base of the leaf. I've already gone from square to octagon, now I'm just rounding it over. Trying to make the base of the leaf as smooth as possible. I'm not going to have another chance to get at it once I create the leaf without ruining it. Just trying to do some last minute straightening before I start creating a leaf. Now I'm going to start drawing it out using both sides of the hammer, using the cross peen, trying to make the leaf nice and wide. Trying to create a center spine that I can use later on with my chisels. Trying to create the individual spines that you see on leaves. Right now, it's just nice, symmetrical, flat. I'm going to refine this a little bit further. We're flattening the leaf out a little bit more, trying to get as much width as possible, nice and thin and flat. Refining the shape, turning the leaf on its side, trying to get the best shape possible, trying to clean up any of those weird corners. Here I'm going to start creating the lines on the leaf. I'm using a technique here where I'm holding the bar between my legs. Because I don't have a hold fast, I intentionally left the bar long so I can hold it while I'm creating the lines in the leaf. This is a relatively dull chisel, just trying to create a nice thick center ridge for me to use, very visible. Going over the line several times, making sure that the line stands out. Here I'm starting to create the thinner lines on the leaf using the same chisel, holding the chisel at an angle, trying to make a nice effect where it's thicker, where it touches the main trunk and tapers out towards the edge. Makes for a really nice effect, gives some nice depth. Here I'm adding some additional lines to the leaf using a thinner chisel. They're not touching the base stem running up the spine, but they just add some nice additional depth. They're a little bit deeper, so they add into the piece itself, so it adds a nice little contrast. Now I'm starting to do the majority of my drawing out using half on half off blows, rotating the bar 90 degrees, trying to thin the stock out. As you can see, I'm working the bar back and forth over the edge, rotating, and it will add some significant length, as you guys will see using this technique. Every once in a while, after you're done drawing it out like that, come back over, just clean it up, make the bar square. As you guys can see here, this is a couple heats later. I've added a lot of additional length here. Once again, just still trying to draw it out, taking it over the flat face of the anvil every once in a while, making the faces nice and square and flat, straightening the piece so that I can fit it back in the forge. This heat primarily just trying to straighten everything out, make the edges square before I turn it into an octagon and then I round it off. I have about as much length as I want here to create the figure 8 knot, just trying to clean everything up. Okay, this heat here, you can see I'm taking very deliberate blows. I'm trying to turn the square that I've created into an octagon. This is the technique that you use to round off a square bar. So rotating it 90 degrees, knocking off the square corners, taking it back over the anvil, making sure everything is straight and can fit in the forge again. In this heat, you can see I'm turning the octagon into a round, rotating constantly over the surface of the anvil. Small, short, quick blows, trying to use as much heat as possible, trying to get a nice smooth, clean surface that doesn't show any old hammer marks. I've got the piece up against the T-square. Got about 12 inches from where I finished my drawing out until the base of the leaf. 12 inches is about enough that I need to make my nice figure eight. Now I got the piece in a bending jig that I created to use as a preform. If you guys have ever looked at a figure eight knot, the pieces aren't perfectly flat on themselves, so I have to create somewhat of a ridge so that I can slip the leaf and create the knot behind and in front of the pieces. So that's what I'm doing here, just playing with it, trying to get it right, trying to make it all fit for the next heat. Just a little bit more bending and tweaking here before I stick it in the post vise with a pair of pliers and try to finish the adjustment there. Just trying to use the jig as much as possible to get a lot of the hard turning that I need to do with part of this knot. Now I've taken the piece over, putting it in the post vise, locking it in there, and with a pair of pliers I'm just going to try and do the finer adjustments, creating the figure eight. You can see I'm trying to bring the leaf up and through that top hole and create the figure eight. Not as easy when we start losing heat, but you guys can see with a little bit of tweaking, I'll be able to get that leaf all the way through the top hole. So now you can see I'm using a rawhide mallet. Don't want to use a metal hammer on this. I don't want to deform the leaf or the figure eight knot. So using a rawhide mallet that I created, just trying to bend and twist any of those odd corners into place. Works really well. Has a nice smell to it if anybody's ever used one. Doing some of the final tweaking here using a big pair of channel locks, trying to make the knot a little tighter, bring the spacing a little bit closer together. Really at this point it's just a lot of tweaking with a pair of channel locks, pliers, but eventually I get it there, and that's the final piece. And from there I'll create the nice bottle opener. Unfortunately, my camera died before I could finish forging the remainder of the bottle opener. So last we left off, I had forged the leaf, figure eight. This was still connected to the 1/2-inch bar stock. So what you guys didn't see was me finish forging out, drawing out the remainder of this over the anvil, hot cutting this, hot rasping it to smooth it over. I kind of like the way it looks with that little bit of a bevel from using the Hot Cut Hardy. Once that was done, used both the anvil and the vise with a pair of tongs, try to manipulate that into the shape that it would typically you'd see for a bottle opener. I like the open end look instead of closing it. And then what I did was to make the dimple, I used a pair of channel locks with a punch that I rounded over on my belt grinder. So in order to make that little dimple, bring this up to orange heat, and then line this up about 3/4 of the way through the piece of stock itself, and then slowly, you know, some light taps at the beginning just to make an indent. And once that indent is established, start to have harder hits, work that dimple down so that it creates a nice little lip to catch under the bottle. Pretty pleased with how it came out. Finished it. I used a wire wheel to take all the scale off, and then 120 grit sandpaper on some of the rougher edges here, just to clean it up, give it something of an authentic look. Overall, pretty pleased with it. I'm submitting this as part of the Alex Steel 4 Weeks of Forging Challenge, and hope you guys appreciate the video. By all means, like it. Hopefully be coming out with some more videos in the future. Thanks guys, be safe.